Hi and welcome back to Painting with Bats, Cats and Broomsticks. Today I wanted to show you guys these Liquitex Acrylic Gouache paints. I was really fascinated with gouache ever since I was a little girl because they were somewhere in between being a watercolour and an acrylic paint. You could layer them like acrylic, but you could wash them down like watercolours. Now, for somebody to come out with something that is even more of a middle ground between those two things, I was really curious. I wanted to know what it was like to paint with these paints. I bought black and white to try out and mixed them to make a grey gradient. And the first thing that I found out was that mixing them takes a little bit of doing if you're mixing a lot of them, but that's to be expected. But the biggest thing I found was that they are a bit like pudding. They are really thick and more like acrylic than they would be gouache. They're really thick and cake-like. And when I started painting with them on the paper, I found the same thing, that they were very thick, but they dried down a lot less thick and completely matte, which I thought was really interesting. I quite like the aesthetic of it drying down to be a beautiful matte, because acrylic can look a bit shiny and plasticky on paper. If you paint with acrylic on wood, it tends to look a lot less shiny and metallic looking or plasticky looking. But with paper, it does have this tendency to look a little bit plastic. I wanted to do a freehand painting just to have a go with this paint and see where it goes. I didn't have much of an idea in mind of what I was doing. I didn't have a reference. I literally was just freehanding something off the top of my head, with no concerns about how good it was going to look at the end, because I just wanted to know how this paint would experience. Now, I did have a little bit of difficulty recording this video. There was a little bit of oversaturation from the really incredibly bright sunshine this day coming through the window, and I had a little bit of difficulty, and I didn't realise that as I was filming it, it was creating these strange lines on the paper, which I think is some of the paper's texture being overexposed. So it does get better as the video goes on, and does let you have a little bit more of a see of what's actually being painted. But I started off with a really light grey wash to have a look, see if I could just quickly doodle an outline of something, and I decided to do a horse, because it would give me a lot of room to make muscle structure, maybe bridle work, something like that, to create a bit of contrast. And I just wanted to create a very basic shape that somebody would recognise, even if it did look like a child's drawing. So I first went in with a light grey wash to give myself an idea of where I wanted everything to go, and worked on top of it. Once I'd gotten my light coloured wash, I started mixing different layers, starting with the darker colours. And I noticed immediately that the dark colours in this gouache are really strong, bold and vibrant, and that I really like. Working with this kind of paint, because it lends itself really very nicely to making smooth lines. Sometimes with acrylic, finding a way to make the acrylic pull really well to make nice, smooth, long lines can be a little bit difficult, because it doesn't want to mix with water incredibly well. But this does. This mixes with water a lot nicer, a lot more like watercolour tube paints do. So it was very easy to build a gradient with this paint. I was really satisfied with how well it blended to create a gradient, and I didn't get any strange unwanted mix happening. Granted, it is only a black and white test piece, so perhaps if you used colours, you would get muddiness in your colours. But since I like these as much as I do, at some point I will in fact go out and purchase some colours for the Liquitex gouache paint and see how well that works out and see where we go from there. The paper that I used to paint on with this was, I believe, acrylic paper that came in one of the Scrollbox subscription paper pads. And perhaps it might work a little bit differently on maybe a watercolour paper, for example, because I don't think this would work tremendously well on a watercolour paper. Unlike regular watercolours, it's really thick. I think it would work best on mixed media paper, acrylic paper, or on something like a Bristol board, especially on something like a Bristol board that has that smooth, nice, thick cardstock like quality to it. I think it would work really, really well on that. Some of the other things that I noticed was how thick the brush feels with this paint in it. It feels very product dense, a bit like when you paint with acrylic, as opposed to when you paint with watercolours, it tends to feel very light on your brush. So there is a lot of like cakey, thick brush feeling to this paint, and there are some benefits to working that way, and there are a lot of patterns and shapes and strokes you can make your brush do with this kind of quality of paint that you wouldn't be able to with a lighter product quality, because it wouldn't lend itself to creating those line shapes. There are some incredibly satisfying line shapes that I've been able to create with this acrylic gouache, and I have really enjoyed working with it. If you get a chance to work with some acrylic gouache and you don't know where to start or how many colours to go with, I highly, highly, highly recommend just having a go with the basic black and white. If you don't have loads of money for art supplies, like sometimes I don't have loads of money to just buy art supplies, I just buy the basic black and white, because there's so much you can do and learn from just that on its own, and you don't have to worry or stress about what colours you have or haven't got, because sometimes when it comes to painting with colours, I find that you end up really needing the colours that are missing from the things that you've bought. So if you buy yourself your basic red, your yellow and your blue, well, sometimes you just can't make the painting look right with just those colours. Like, cerulean blue is definitely a different mix from ultramarine blue and white, with maybe a mix of a little bit of green, yellow and red. It just doesn't work that simply with some instances of colour mixing. You just have to have the colours that you need to have. But when you're working with something as simple as black and white, you can learn so much from a very, very basic set. And you don't even need the grayscale in between. You just need your white and your basic black. Now, some sets will give you different kinds of black to create different wash down. So you'll have a blue black, which is your cold blacks, which will have a very blue grey tone, and then you'll have your warm black, like Mars black, which will wash down a little bit more on the orange red hue. It doesn't make a noticeable difference most of the time for what you'll be painting, unless you are trying to paint an incredibly dramatic scene, and it certainly won't make a difference for learning. Because what you want to learn from having the colours that you do, the basic black and white colours, is how do they mix? How do they gradient into each other? How does it build on each other? Does it leave me with cakey layers that I can't build on top of? Do I need to work from light to dark with highlights added back in like you do with acrylic? Or do you work dark to light like you would with a heavy gouache or something like that? It's one of those things that I feel is important to have a go and learn when you are learning with a whole new material. I know that I, for one, am one of those terrible artists that want the whole entire set to experience from the very get-go, or what is the point? Because I tend to want to experience as much of the paint as possible before investing my time in whether or not I can make really good painting with it. But this can be very time-consuming and strange thing to do with your time, really. And I know that for me, that is just I really want this shiny product. I have fallen in love with it because it looks amazing, the packaging is great, and it is so cool to have this. Sometimes that doesn't lead to really beautiful paintings, it just leads to a very beautiful collection of things in your art drawer that you barely ever touch. So this, using just the grey, black and white technique, lets you learn so much before you put loads of investment into this kind of product. So the example I have here, the Liquitex Acrylic Gouache, is £7.50 from the website Cass Art. I bought them in person at a shop in, I believe these ones from Liverpool, and they do have sets of these colours. A small set of 6 would set you back £48.95. A larger set of 12 at a smaller quantity per bottle sets you back £47.50, and a set of 6 of the smaller bottles would be £24.95. So it is a lot of money to invest from the start up to make sure that you like these paints. And they do have a much larger range of paint colours than those sets alone would give you. So I, for example, as an artist, always want loads of different colours to play with. The total range of colours available is actually 85 colours, or at least that's what's available through Cass Art. I don't know if the company itself creates more colours than that anywhere else, but that is a large variety of colours, giving you more than you need to work with. If you love working with making anime background scenes or that really block finished, smooth medium, I recommend these because I think that they would lend themselves to that kind and style of work really, really easily. Now that's not my typical style of work. I concentrate more on realism. Not that I can't do that style, it's just not the first thing that comes to my mind at the beginning of my day when I'm thinking of what to make or paint. I always seem to gravitate towards pictures of animals, sometimes people and sometimes locations, but more often than not animals. And one of the reasons animals are such a big draw to me is because of their expressive faces and amazing rich colours, especially when it comes to birds. I love painting birds, especially exotic tropical looking birds with their really, really vibrant turquoises. Stunning, just so beautiful. But working with this black and white gouache, I really have learned a lot about how it builds up, about the depth and things like that, and I think that it works really, really well. If you're willing to give it the patience and a try, it is highly recommended. I just wanted to say thank you all for watching my videos, and I really do appreciate everybody who subscribes and watches. I just want to share my experiences and my thoughts on paints and art supplies with the whole world. These acrylic gouache have been really amazing things to use and to experience, and I wouldn't be experimenting as much as an artist if it wasn't for these videos that I'm trying to make and trying to reach out with and create for you guys as content. I feel like it's helped me improve as an artist. It's helped me improve how experimental I am and be a little bit less rigid and experience some new things and let myself learn about different materials. I've learned so much, some of which has been thanks to the Scrollbox subscription box that I unbox, because they really have pushed me out of my comfort zone with the out of left field kind of art supplies that they've sent from time to time. And some of it's been like things that I absolutely love and adore, or things that I just wanted to get for myself but didn't have the courage to buy for myself because I was thinking, well, when will I ever use it? You know, it's a lot of money and I'm not going to try to paint anything with it, so what's the use in having it? But having had the chance and the experience to experiment with so much paint has been really eye-opening as an artist, and I hope that you guys get to have that same creative outlet and that you find things through my channel that you really like and enjoy working with. So today, down in the comments below, I'd really like to hear from you. What's your favourite art supplies? What do you gravitate towards? What makes you happy when you're painting? Is it watercolours, what paintbrushes, what pencils, what things make you feel the most creative? I would love to hear from you guys and see if there's anything there that I haven't heard of before or know about already. Maybe something that I might try out on a video coming up next. Next videos coming up, we'll have some new watercolours. We will be testing out Cockman tubed watercolour paints, something that I remember using back in high school days, but haven't much used since, but I'm looking forward to trying them out again. And we will also be trying out a cake pan gouache, which I think is really intriguing as a concept, because in my mind gouache should always be liquid, but I think it'll be fascinating to give it a go and see what it's like to paint with it. I do want to do a Himi gouache paint product review as well at some point, because I'm really fascinated by these jelly gouache. I know that there's a lot of people already on YouTube painting with them and that there's a lot of reviews on them already out there, but I'm intrigued to see what I can make with them. Thank you guys for watching my videos, and I really do appreciate it. Every single subscription helps this channel grow. Every comment, every interaction helps me grow as an artist, helps me grow this channel, and helps me make it better for you guys. So if you leave me a comment down below, tell me what you like, what art supplies you enjoy, and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.